Okay, welcome to tonight's Your Space presentation, Giving Your Child the Tools for Life. And we're really pleased to have Michelle McVitie here from the Community Education Service at Ron Joyce Children's Health Center. I am going to go ahead and pass things over to Michelle, and we'll get tonight's session started.
Hey, welcome. So I am Michelle. I'm a child life specialist. I am a mother of two teenagers, and I have been working with children and families for over 20 years. So today will be an educational workshop. If you have any questions about the content, feel free to let me know in the chat box. Okay, so resiliency, what is that? It's the ability to be able to recover from difficulties or change and to function as well as before and then move forward. So it's getting back up on the horse, bouncing back from things that maybe didn't go as planned or go that well, but it's learning from those experiences and then being able to move forward. Some of our children are born more resilient than others. So we're going to talk about how we can build resiliency in our children, especially when they're struggling with certain aspects. So we're going to talk about what it means to be resilient and how we can build that up in our children. So when we think about resiliency, we're not just thinking about the individual child, we're also thinking about the family that wraps around them and their environment. So we want to build off of an individual, and it goes with your family and your environment that builds and builds resiliency and creates more support for a child. So how do we build resiliency? And we're going to be talking about these 4 pillars. So feelings and emotions. We're going to understand your child's temperament and what emotional regulation really is and how to support your child with their big emotions. And then we've got behavior. So we want to work on your child's adaptive skills and social skills, ways of thinking, the self-concept, who we are in the world and how people see us, thoughts about others and how other people think about us, and our learning style. So how do we learn, and our inborn intelligence and things like that. And then our environment, so our school and physical health. Okay, so temperament. We are all born with 9 temperament traits, and there are those children that are a little more easy or flexible. They tend to be those kids that are kind of happy, have regular sleeping habits, they're adaptable, they're calm, not easily upset. And then we have children that are a little more active or feisty, so they're a little fussier, they have irregular feeding and sleeping habits, they may be more fearful of new people and situations, maybe they get easily upset, and their reactions are more intense. And then we have the slow to warm or cautious children that may be less active and tend to be less fussy, tend to be fussy, and may draw or react negatively, withdraw or react negatively to new situations. So when we think about where our children are coming from, temperament just helps us understand who they are, and then we can build off of that. So when we think about tips to build resiliency, we want to learn to recognize the differences in temperament. You can actually look up a temperament scale, try to understand where your child is coming from. Sometimes we're very, very different from our children, so sometimes we have a hard time relating to them or understanding them. It also, in the same house, you can have one child with one temperament and another child with a different temperament. So sometimes that can be a clash and can be kind of difficult for parents to know, what does this child need and what does the other child need? So we want to give, for example, more of those feistier temperaments, opportunities to be able to learn how to regulate their emotions, how to cool off, how to practice using those calm down techniques. And children that are more cautious, we want to give them opportunity to try new things, to be part of social groups, and kind of push them outside of their comfort zone. So this does take a lot of work, but it's important to know the skills that your children need because we are trying to build them up and build up their resiliency in life. So feelings and emotions. Children that are resilient will respect others' emotions. They openly express their emotions. They cope with anger and frustration in constructive ways. They can show empathy, and they respond to being comforted. So your child may have some or all of these things, or maybe you can take a look at some of these and say, okay, they're struggling with this and they're struggling with 2 or 3 off of here. So how do we understand them and how do we build up their feelings and emotions and how they deal with regulation? So what can we do? Well, we can encourage children to express their feelings. A lot of us were brought up that you only express happy emotions, and the ones that are sad and mad and feeling lonely, no, we're going to hold off on those. And no, we want children to be able to share. Everybody is entitled to have their experience, to have their emotion. And it is okay to be able to express it, and you want a child to feel safe that they can express their emotion. Help them cope with those emotions in positive and helpful ways. So when I feel angry, what is it that I need? When I'm feeling sad, what is it that I need? And how do I help turn the volume down on that emotion? Teach relaxation techniques, draw about it, offer positive distractions. So how does your child relax? And without electronics, how do your children relax? And are they able to transfer those skills from home to different situations? So even when you're not around, are they able to do those calm down strategies and be able to be aware of what's happening in their body and that I have to take a break and what can I do to turn down the volume? Help them with sharing emotions and make it a positive experience. What happens sometimes with children, especially when they have a hard time sharing emotions, is that when we have a hard time with emotion, we want to hold it in. And when we hold it in, we feel like we're protecting ourselves from those emotions. So when we then try to get our child to talk about it, it can be really tough for them because it brings up more emotion and they want to avoid that. It could also be hard because when they bring up emotion, you might have somebody that's saying, don't worry about it, you're okay. Somebody's jumping into fix, which is what we want to do because we want to try to protect our children. We want to help them, cheer them up. But when somebody's feeling upset and somebody's telling you not to worry about it or trying to fix it, it can feel very invalidating and can be frustrating. So we want to make sure that when a child does open up, that we do make them feel safe, that we do make them feel like this is okay to do that, and you can do this at your own pace. And this might take more than one conversation. Children that learn to manage difficult emotions with helpful responses and actions learn to transfer these skills to other circumstances. So like I said earlier, if we show them how to do these things in our home, if we kind of put them outside of their comfort zone so they can deal with things, that emotions and situations that maybe make them feel a little uncomfortable or anxious, we're there to support them. We're there to help them with some coping strategies, and eventually they're going to be able to do those things without us and in different environments, not just at home. So how we can help them. And I talked a little bit about communicating and making sure opening up is a safe thing for them. So we want to empathize with them and validate their emotion, right? That it's okay. We may not understand it, but we want to try to put yourself in their shoes. Validate where they're coming from. Empathize with the fact that they have an experience and they have they have every right to feel that way. So we want to empathize. I can see why that would be frustrating for you. Of course you would feel this way because whatever the reason may be. Label their feelings. So I see that you're looking frustrated, or I see that you're upset. I can see that whatever's happening in them, and label your feelings as well. I'm feeling a little overwhelmed today. I had a hard day at work, and then what can I do about that? I'm going to go have a bubble bath. I just need about 20 minutes. Watch your show, and then we can hang out afterwards. Learn more. Ask them about their feelings. Maybe we can read a book together, watch a show together. What's happening in the show? What feelings are coming up? Can your children perceive other people's emotions? Can they label somebody else's emotions, or what's going on in a story or in a book? See if they can label those emotions. And then children imitate the behavior of adults. Be a good role model. The thing is that this is a fairly new thing for us. Talking about emotion is something that we, as growing up, weren't always allowed to do. We had to keep our tears for the pillow, buck up, you're fine, suck it up, and it wasn't a good feeling. And so sometimes what happens is that we have a hard time dealing with our emotion as well. How did your parents deal with emotion? The people around you, your caregivers, were they good role models to you? Did you feel like you had to do things differently? And then sometimes what happens is that children learn what they live, and it comes back in us, even though we've worked on it. So you want to be mindful of that and be a good role model to your children so they learn when you have emotion, and you're allowed to have emotion, this would be a helpful way to deal with that, because having emotion is normal. It's good. It's okay to have emotion. It's what we do with that emotion. And there's helpful ways and unhelpful ways. Helpful ways and unhelpful ways to deal with that. And we want to show them some helpful ways to deal with emotion. So this is an emotion wheel, and you can look this up on Google Images. There's ones for younger children as well, and it just broadens your emotional vocabulary. Mad, sad, glad, and bad is great, especially when they're little, but we want to start broadening that, because am I feeling mad, or am I hurt, or am I feeling frustrated? Am I feeling sad, or am I feeling bored or lonely? Maybe I'm feeling inferior or isolated. Those are very different things. And can you feel more than one emotion at the same time? Absolutely. And usually when those meltdowns happen and things like that, then it's intense, right? It's intense emotion happening all at the same time. And then it makes us act a certain way. We'll act out, or we'll shut down, and we can take those opportunities afterwards to talk about it, not in the moment, but this is something you can do for fun. Talk about it, read about it, have a word of the week, word of the day. When was the last time you felt this way, or why would somebody feel this way? So normalize talking about feelings. Tons of books out there right now as well, because this is the thing, right? To teach about emotions. It's a wonderful thing, and having emotions is okay, but some kids have an easier time sharing, and some kids don't. So normalize it in your home. Here are some books, and again, there's so many books. The Way I Feel, The Way I Act, and the other one is Spanish. But so we're reading about it, we're normalizing, and as they start getting older, then they can find new ways to kind of learn about emotion, journaling, all kinds of cool things. YouTube is full of stuff. Just find things that is important for you, that works for you, that works for your child, and kind of go from there. So this is a little quiet down spot, and it doesn't need to be fancy. It can, some parents say they actually put like a tablecloth on the dining room table because they don't use the dining room table, and the children go under there. A calm down spot is just somewhere where they can easily access things that are going to help them calm down. So if it's not electronics, what do your children like to do? One parent said their child really loved water, so would put a towel down in the kitchen and put a bin on the floor, and it just really relaxed her daughter. Mom was a little bit stressed out because it made a mess, but she realized that it was actually better to have her child make a little bit of a mess and have a happy child that's doing calm down things, right? And apparently there are calming corner kits out there. So you can Google anything and look things up. I mean, you can buy fancy tents and things like that, but it could be a box that they can decorate. It could be a space in their room that they can go, somewhere that's not overstimulating. And you can even reward that when they do go to their space, that you're going to give them a check or a pom-pom in the jar, and you're going to notice that they're doing these positive, helpful things to help slow down that emotion or turn it down a little bit. And then calming yourself down, here's an example of what you can put. So have little reminders, square breathing, maybe some pictures or some other ways that they can express their emotion, little thermometers. And again, this starts with when they're young, but as they start getting older, how can we adapt this for older children as well? Because I'm sure a 15-year-old probably will not want to climb into that little tent, but what is their room like? What is their space like? Can they download something into their phone, some kind of an app or some music, and make it part of an everyday routine, that it's not in the moment that we're trying to teach things. We're trying to do this on a regular basis, right? Okay. So ways of thinking. So when you're resilient, we think positively. We notice the good things as well as the challenges. Our optimistic thinking keeps our mind open to possibilities. We look forward to the future, recognizing that some things are hard work and believing in our ability to do hard things. Silent thinking is our reflection on, it's our unspoken attitudes, it's our expectations and beliefs, and using self-talk to problem solve, to manage conflict, to plan for the future, and regulate our emotional reactions. I mean, that is a lot. You may know some adults that maybe struggle with this as well. And our brain automatically goes to the negative, but when you are a resilient person, you are more likely to look at the positive. You're more likely to be able to look at situations that didn't go well and try to change your mindset. And if that's a struggle of yours, then that's when we need to look to get some support or try to reframe that. And that's the same thing with our children. Some children are harder on themselves. They have more of that unhelpful thinking. So helping them become more resilient is to tackle the thought process and change their mindset. So encourage children to share their thoughts. What is going on? Sometimes if it's anxiety, for example, we would say, what's the worry bully saying? What's the anxiety saying? So what's going on in our heads? Let's try to listen to the nice thoughts in our head. And can we boss back the unhelpful thoughts? Where is the proof to say that this is true? So help them challenge those unhelpful thoughts. So for example, it has to be perfect. Well, instead, my best is good enough. I can't do this. I just have to try. So we want to jump in. We want to fix. We want to tell them, don't worry about it. Instead, let's try this strategy and let's do some detective thinking to say, where's the proof to say that this is true? Okay, so this is a tough thing to do, but knowing what their thinking process is. What are some reminders? There's some ideas here with collages. Maybe you have a dry erase board that you put a positive affirmation up. It could be something from a song, something from a movie. Could be lots of things, right? So it's working with our kids, understanding that under 7, this is a lot harder for children to do, but when they're younger, I'm brave, I can do this, I'm a great big brother, I'm such a great soccer player. And as they start getting older and they can understand and externalize some of those unhelpful thoughts, then we can do this kind of bossing back idea that we showed here. So self-concept and children. Self-concept is the thought of our individual perceptions of our behavior, our abilities, and our unique characteristics. So who are you as a person? I'm a good friend. I'm a kind person. So that's all that's overall, that's what a self-concept is all about. And it's tied to your identity and how you see yourself. And it's also connected to your self-esteem. If you feel as though your contribution to the world isn't noticed, that how people see you, you're not happy with that. So that's going to affect our self-esteem and it's going to affect our self-concept. So building that up in our children is really important because children that have a low self-esteem really struggle with wanting to pursue goals, to not give up, to be positive. So we want to work on that. So what we can do is create opportunities to build self-esteem and a positive concept. Celebrate them, take notice on what they're doing, appreciate their contributions. So having routines, having chores, doing things as a family, it's important that they come down to dinner and spend time with you, that you do things as a family. As children start getting older, it's a lot easier for them just to go up to their room to do different things and not be around. So yeah, that is normal for kids to want to be with their friends and out of the house more, but for dinner time, we want to see you. We want to spend time with you. Maybe we can't do it every day, but let's aim for Tuesdays and Thursdays. Get them involved in groups and activities. What are they interested in? What do they like? Because sometimes when they're at school, and it just depends on the school. Sometimes it's the luck of the draw, especially when they're younger, because in high school they have more opportunity to meet different types of people and people that they have more interests in. But in smaller schools, sometimes it's really tough to find people that you can really connect with, that you have more things in common. So let's step outside of school. Whether your kids have friends or not in school, it's great to broaden their horizons. They can learn new things. They can meet new people, and it pushes them outside of their comfort zone so they can learn to be in different environments, to be around different people, to be, on a team or to be part of a club, to be part of something where my contribution matters, where I'm connecting with people that get me on a different wavelength. That's a really cool thing to be a part of. Help teens face problems or situations that threaten their self-concept, such as a breakup, writing an exam. Maybe the exam didn't go well, or they're really worried because it's a big deal if they don't do well. So how do we support them? How do we work through that? And when things didn't go well, validate where they're coming from. Do you need some support? Do you just need a hug from me? And acknowledge their emotion. I know a lot of times too with breakups, a lot of parents are like, don't worry about it. Who cares? Boys are trouble, girls are trouble, and it's like, yeah, but this was somebody I cared about. This was my companion. I got rejected, or I had to reject somebody else, and you're just telling me not to worry about it. And sure, of course, there's other people. Maybe a relationship is not that important in that moment, but it is important to them. And to just say, don't worry about it, is really invalidating, and it doesn't make them feel like this is something that you care about. So are they going to open up to you? And it helps when you can work it out with them if they're wanting your support, because then they feel like, okay, it wasn't a personal thing. Or, you know what, maybe I felt like it was personal, but we just grew apart. Help them work through some of those things that didn't work out. Model positive attitudes yourself. Help them handle defeats. And they need to know your love will remain unchanged no matter what the situation. Okay, so how do we build up this helpful thinking? So help your children challenge their unhelpful thinking. We kind of talked about that already. When we think of other people and their thoughts about us, that can kind of get us down, especially when children have social anxiety. They worry about fitting in and being judged. What other people think of us really does affect us. And, you know, it's ironic because we're trying to tell kids, just love yourself, but what other people think of us does affect who we feel we are, right? So it kind of all goes together. But let's talk about this a little bit, because when it's getting in the way and the children are really struggling with it, then we need to address it. So they're going to make fun of me. They don't like me. They did that on purpose. Well, where is the proof to say that that's true? Can we read someone else's mind? You know, so do you know what they were talking about? You just happened to walk by and they started laughing, but how do you know that they were laughing at you? So do a little bit of that detective thinking, validate some of that emotion, but where's the proof? What can they say instead? Or what else could be going on in that situation? What helpful thoughts can you say to counter these thoughts? And what else could be true? Okay, so again, I'm throwing a lot of information at you, but you're looking at each thing separately, because some of your kids might need more help in this. Some of your kids might need more help in social skills or something different, right? So you're just going to take it one step at a time. So learning strengths. A resilient child, you know, will be able to take in the world a little bit differently, and their learning is a big part of that, right? So learning is how children and youth take in and absorb and apply information. And learning strengths is a combination of what your child is born with and also the knowledge and skills they develop through formal and informal education. Even a child that has a learning disability, we can still build up their resiliency. We just have to understand that life is going to be a little bit harder and that we're going to have to boost their resiliency with more support. It doesn't mean that they can't do well in life. However, they've got more cards stacked against them, and we want to help build that up. But not everybody needs a PhD to do well in life, and there's other ways to learn, and it's not just book smart. So whatever their starting point may be, all children can increase these learning abilities, which is a really good point. And play opportunities, offering free play, going outside, imaginative, you know, here's a box of whatever, go have fun with it, coloring, creative play. They do a lot of that in daycare. They do a lot of that in the early on centers where it's just these free play kind of things, use your imagination and allowing your children to learn new things, to try new things, to use their imagination and change the rules up in a game, for example. You know, make up a play, do a dance, do whatever, go outside and kick the can, you know, and do things that are not just so strict and, you know, we have a leader and we have to go and see a coach or a teacher. Let them kind of learn things on their own, so they can learn those problem solving skills and learn a different way and explore. So adaptive skills. These are skills that help them to work through difficulties, problem solve, use practical and realistic situations, make decisions, resolve conflicts, manage stress, and know how to ask for help and when. So when you have a child that's struggling with adaptive skills, they struggle, right? They have a hard time problem solving, making decisions. They may be very rigid, and like things only a certain way. So to do things differently or see things from a different point of view may be really tough for them. So we have to work a little harder as far as helping them change that, giving them opportunity to practice, talking about it, planning ahead. It's really time consuming, but very worth it. But give your children opportunities to try. So we want to support them, right? And this can be done with you. It can be done at school. It can be done in different organizations like Scouts and, sports and things like that, and creative activities, and just playing with their friends in the backyard. So problem solving needs to be taught. However, some need to know when to ask for help, because some children will just get frustrated and frustrated and frustrated and continue to go at it. They don't know how to take a break. They don't know how to ask for help, or to ask for help may bring on shame. They may feel embarrassed and judged. So we have to see what our children are struggling with and how we can move forward and help them with that. So what can we do? Like I said, plan ahead, anticipate an issue, talk about various coping strategies, encourage children to engage in simple, pleasurable activities, and reduce stress and help them relax, and encourage supportive relationships. I feel this day and age, we have a hard time with accepting help from others, doing that community parenting. Let's bring that back. Have kids over. Have your kids go over to other people's houses, and have those relationships with grandparents and aunts and uncles. And if you don't have close family, who else can they, get to know and play with and learn? Learning comes from more than just one generation or just from us. It's cool to learn from different generations and different people. So let's anticipate what your child needs, plan ahead, try not to fight things in the moment. We don't want to be fighting fires. When something's coming up, we have to look at it, especially when it's happening on a regular basis, and then how do we move forward with a plan? And if you can get your children involved in that plan, that would be even better. So the pandemic has made the visits much more difficult. Absolutely. It's been really tough. So it's nice that the world is opening up, that we can get outside. I think sometimes too is that, we are kind of stuck. And then to get back out, we might have some more resistance from our kids. We might have some resistance. And how do we find a happy medium? How do we get our kids out and doing things and connecting and normalizing that a little bit? And maybe your circle is a little bit smaller. How can we broaden it a little bit and kind of see what feels safe for us and how can we make that work? So resilience building tips for social skills. Social skills is a very, very important skill to have. Teach those basic social skills, how to greet others, how to start and maintain conversations, manners, being able to take turns. Sometimes when you've got a when you've got a child that struggles with behaviors, they're more likely to have a meltdown. They're a little more rigid. What we tend to do is we kind of walk on eggshells with those kids, and we allow them to do things that maybe we wouldn't have normally allowed because we don't want to get into an argument. We don't want them to have a meltdown. So we just let them go first. We let them kind of interrupt us because, we don't want there to be a meltdown and we've got a friend over. So we have to teach them those things. We have to do it around the siblings as well, so everybody kind of learns, and then have the play dates and see how they're doing. So we want to model good social skills ourselves, have friends visit, get them connected with play groups, get them outside, trying new things, and teach them how to be assertive. So for example, we've got a situation that isn't going well, so we can get angry and fight with the child. We can shut down, we can cry, or we can say, you know what, that didn't really feel so good. Or, you know what, we've been playing your game now for half an hour, and I'd like to play my game. So being able to be assertive, share, and if that other child does not follow through, what's the next step? Do you step away? Do you do something different? Do you need to repeat what you've just said? But it's different than getting aggressive or completely shutting down. Practice resolution. So how do we work on conflict with siblings in the home? Talking about how can we negotiate something, and what does negotiation mean? It's listening to me, I'll listen to you, and how do we work on this together? Have a code word or a signal. A code word means that one word that we can say to our child when they're struggling in the moment. So one parent actually told me they use the word filter. So their child has ADHD and impulsivity is an issue. So when they say something inappropriate in a social setting, then mom says filter, and the child knows whatever was just said, that wasn't so good. How do I take it back? So that is quite a difficult skill to work on, depending on your child, developmentally where they're at, but could be a really great thing to work on, especially in public, so the child doesn't feel like you're embarrassing them or you're trying to correct them in front of friends. And avoid reinforcing behaviors like interrupting. So if I've said, we're having friends over, you can sit for 5 minutes with the adults, and then you have to go and spend time with the children. When you need me, you can put your hand on my shoulder, put your hand on my hand, and I can put my hand on top of yours to tell you I'm here. I know that you're here because a lot of kids are like, Mom, 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 like I know you're here. I'm just ignoring you. But children don't get it. They're not perceptive. Your child may not be getting it. So we have to plan ahead and then follow through. And if we say, don't interrupt, but what do you want? Then we're saying, you know what, I have rules, but I'll listen to you anyway. Okay, so have those rules, talk about it, prepare and use codes and signals and things like that to reinforce those messages. And with some kids, they need a lot of reminders, ask them to repeat it back to you. Have a little something written, house rules, things like that, before you walk into a party, before you go to the park, before you have a play date. Let's talk about these rules and expectations and have them repeat it back to you. Okay. So when your children are away from you, we don't know what's going on. And the school environment can be a great place to build children up, but if things aren't going well, it can really affect them, right? So does your child have a positive relationship with their teacher, another staff member in the school? There are sometimes conflicts with teacher and child, especially if your child is struggling, if their behavior is disruptive, if the teacher just doesn't understand where they're coming from. And sometimes that even happens with anxious and very quiet children. Some teachers, they just don't get it, or they find it irritating, or they're fine, they're quiet. I'm not even gonna bother because I've got this other child that's ripping the bookshelves down. So there could be a conflict there. And it doesn't feel good when a child, whether the perception is correct or not, doesn't feel like someone is accepting them or doesn't like them or doesn't get them. So are there other people in the school that they do get? Can they make those connections in different ways? Sometimes we can ask for different teachers. That can be a little bit tricky. And helping children realize that sometimes it's not fair, but sometimes, it doesn't feel good, but where's the proof to say, and you know what, you may not connect with your math teacher, but you and your history teacher have a really cool relationship and they're a lot of fun. So help them with that piece. And then where does your child sit in the classroom? Because depending if where they're struggling, how they're struggling, this will really give you some insight, because where they're sitting can affect them. So if they sit beside a child that maybe is very disruptive, that can be hard. And maybe they're sitting beside their friend and they have a hard time not talking to their friend, or they're more shy and anxious, and their friends are in another classroom, or they're across the room, so I don't talk to anybody. I don't put my hand up. But if I had my friend close by, I'd be more likely to engage. I'd be more likely to put my hand up. And some kids are by the door or the window and they're easily distracted. So thinking about those kinds of things can be helpful. And what motivates your child? Is it getting positive feedback about their effort? Is it good grades? What motivates your child to go to school and to do well? Even a teenager, right? If a teenager, for example, you feel like they don't value school that much, or getting good grades, but what they do value is getting an after-school job, and they'd love to work in a coffee shop. Well, you need math to be able to have a job at a coffee shop, because you have to be able to work with money and kind of get how those things work. So going to math class may be of value to them now because they're really motivated to get an after-school job. Okay, so trying to think about what motivates your child, what they value, and hopefully that will get them doing a little bit better with goals and going to school and things like that. So a child that's resilient has optimal physical health. So they're well nourished, they're fit, they're active and energetic. Some children have chronic illness, something that we can't avoid. So it may affect their resiliency, but it doesn't mean that we can't build on that. And we can build up other things as well to build up their resiliency. So when health isn't optional, other strengths and talents and having good supports can help compensate. We want to model that good health ourselves. If we're saying, well, my child never gets outside, they just want to play video games, then we may need to be that role model for them and say, what, when you have an hour of outdoor time, you get a half an hour screen time, and we're going to go for a family hike. Would you like to go on a hike by the waterfall, or do you want to just take the dog for a walk? Which would you prefer? They may not want to do either, but I'll let you choose one of these two choices. And then when they do go, let's acknowledge the fact that this was a lot of fun. I'm so glad that you had fun. Maybe there's a little bit of complaining. Maybe it was like a 5 out of 10 for them, but at least they're there. So encourage that exercise, encourage that healthy eating. And I think too that, with the healthy eating, what does that mean? That unhealthy, healthy eating. And it's just being able to make those good choices and having a bin of like snacks that you feel are better to have first, and then they can have a bin of things that are more those fun snacks that they may want to have all the time. But first we have to have one of these snacks, or before dinner you can have carrots and hummus and you can decide, and then later on you can pick from the fun bin, right? And once your 5 things are gone, then that's it for that week, that kind of thing. So there's some cool ways to work around that. Alrighty. So we've just got some resources here for you that you can find new things. And again, these will be available to you. Very good. Awesome. And if you're looking for supports, then we've got a list of them here. And yeah, we're good. So you can always sign up for more courses done through here or through our website, which you can find. So I hope you found that helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment. And if not, then I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to look forward to seeing you in another workshop.
Thank you very much, Michelle. I'm going to skip ahead to our thank you slide, and I'll put that link in the chat as well. That link is not activated yet. I'm still adding some more links to that page. It's a draft, but you'll get a follow-up email tomorrow morning that has the active link. And we really appreciate you joining us tonight. And thank you so much, Michelle, for sharing all that. It felt like it was a combination of a bunch of different helpful things that there are other Your Space sessions that Sue and Michelle have done, and we'll make sure that those are all linked in the resource page for this one as well, so that you can go deeper into a bunch of those different areas. So thank you very much. Oh, yeah. I should stop if you have
there
questions.
Is a question here.
Questions. Go ahead.
So as far as going back to school and a child refusing to go, you can validate those emotions. I would be getting to the school. I would be playing outside. Seeing if you can connect with the school to see if you can get into the classroom. What room are we going to be in? What does the teacher look like? Who's going to be in my class? Creating some play dates, maybe asking your friends to meet you at the school. And then what are their morning routines? How do we feel good about getting going and start those routines now? But again, a lot of times we get anxious. We think, oh, we have anticipatory anxiety, and we're not validating that emotion. It is really normal to feel nervous. It's normal to feel apprehensive. It's been a really weird year. So the more that we can normalize those emotions, and what can we do to make you feel better? Do you want to walk there? Do you want to play some music and headphones? Can we have a special handshakes to say goodbye? Can you have something that he can put in his pocket, like a button from grandma's sweater, or a stuffy he can put in his bag? You can put some perfume on his wrist so he can remember you. So yeah, it's normal to feel that way. Let's acknowledge that. They need our calm in their chaos, and then what's the plan to get them there? And notice effort. Drop off may be hard, but it may take some time, and then eventually it'll get easier. Any other questions for me? My pleasure.
I'll be faster jumping on the microphone. We'll be sure to share some links as well to some of those back to school tips and strategies, because pretty much all kids are kind of in the same boat right now. And if yours is just starting out, JK kindergarten, a lot of the kids will be feeling the same way, and there's some really good stuff out there on CMHO, so Children's Mental Health Ontario's website, through PCMH at the Family Care Centre, and lots of other sites. So we'll make sure to link you with those as well. Maybe some videos and things that you can watch together.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. Any other questions?
All right. If people are feeling okay, we've got a few minutes early, but who doesn't want an extra few minutes on a lovely night like tonight? Yeah. So thank you all. Don't forget to check the Your Space website for other sessions. Things are posted through September to December now as well, and new things being added. So take care, and we'll see you again soon.
Take care.